All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a question that, honestly, hits close to home for millions of us. Why does it feel almost impossible for so many Americans to save money? Let's get into it.
So I want to start with just one thing. This number, $400. That's it. No context, nothing else, just $400. Kind of hangs there, right? Okay, now let's add the context. Imagine, out of nowhere, your car dies, or you get a surprise medical bill. We've all been there. The question is, could you, right this second, cover that $400 emergency without whipping out a credit card or selling something you own?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer, isn't it? And here's the really stark reality we're seeing in the research. A huge, and I mean huge portion of Americans just can't. This isn't some fringe problem, it's a massive, widespread issue. So that brings us to the big question, why? What is actually going on here?
To really get a handle on this, think of it like a vice grip. Seriously, it's squeezing people from two different directions at once. And first, let's talk about the external squeeze. These are the big, powerful economic forces that are, for the most part, completely out of our individual control.
And this right here, this shows the core problem so clearly. On one side, you've got the cost of just living, housing, childcare, healthcare. It's all skyrocketed. But then, on the other side, wages for so many people, especially for younger folks, have just flatlined. They haven't kept up. And that gap between what things cost and what we earn, that's the main pressure point of the vice.
And then, of course, there's debt. Oh man, the debt. It feels like it's everywhere, right? So much of the money that could, in theory, go into a savings account is just getting eaten alive by student loan payments, credit card bills with crazy interest rates, and auto loans. It really is like trying to fill a bucket that's already riddled with holes.
Okay, so that's one side of the vice grip. Now let's talk about the other side. This is what we're calling the internal squeeze, and this is all about the stuff that's a little closer to home. Our culture, our personal habits, the way we've been taught to think about money.
This line right here, pulled from the research, just hits the nail on the head. We are surrounded by a consumer culture that is constantly screaming at us to buy more, upgrade now, and spend, spend, spend. That desire for instant gratification is so powerful, and it makes it really, really hard not to prioritize what we want right now over what we'll need in the future.
And that leads us right into this super important idea called lifestyle creep. You know what I'm talking about, right? You get a raise at work and you think, awesome, finally I can put some real money away. But then, at the end of the month, you look at your account and it's all gone. Where did it go? That is lifestyle creep. It's the sneaky tendency for our spending to grow right alongside our income, which just eats up any chance we had to save more.
So this is how most of us try to save, and it's a perfect illustration of why it often doesn't work. Step 1, you earn your income. Great. Step 2, you pay for the must-haves. Rent, bills, all that. Step 3, you spend on the wants. And then, at the very end, step 4 is to save whatever's left over. But what happens most of the time? By the time you get to step 4, there's nothing left, if anything.
So what happens when you take that external economic vice and you combine it with this internal pressure to spend? What's the end result? Well, for a whole lot of people, especially younger generations, it means living a financial life deep in the red.
Just look at these numbers for a second. What this shows is that for many folks in Gen Z, their average debt is actually higher than their average savings. Think about that. They're starting their adult lives already underwater, which makes building any kind of solid financial foundation for the future just unbelievably difficult.
Okay, I know. This all sounds pretty bleak, maybe even a little hopeless, but it's not. The good news is there is a path forward. So let's shift gears and talk about some actual strategies that can help people fight back and regain some control over their finances.
All right, so here are the big 4 strategies. First, a proactive budget. This isn't about restricting yourself, it's about telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Second, automate your savings. This one is a game changer. Set it up so the money moves on its own before you can even touch it. Third, you got to attack that high-interest debt. It's like an anchor dragging you down. And finally, just committing to learning more. Financial education is key to making all these pieces click.
But if there is just one thing you take away from all this, it has to be this. It's a huge mindset shift. Stop trying to save whatever is left at the end of the month. Instead, you have to pay yourself first. That's the mantra. You treat your savings account like it's your most important bill. The minute you get paid, a piece goes to your future self before anything else.
It sounds like such a small change in the order of operations, but trust me, it changes everything.
And that really leaves us with this one big final question to chew on. We've talked about all these powerful individual habits you can build, but we also talked about that massive external vice grip, right? The systemic pressures. So, are good personal habits enough, all on their own, to solve a problem this big? A problem that's also baked into the system? It's a really important thing to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this one.